you have your hands in like a lot of projects. So then how do you prioritize your time?
Well, a lot of the prioritizing the time has to do with, one, you're making sure that the projects that you're involved in are related to each other, right? You want to have some kind of thread of like what you're actually trying to do. The last thing you want to do is have like 20 different things that have nothing to do with each other. So that way, at least your skill source is being like utilized. And then at the end of the day, you just have to literally sit down and figure out what it is you want and prioritize them. Make them it's not like your children. All things are not created equal. You have to have a favorite. You have to say, this is the priority. And if I have to choose, I'm choosing this one. This one's number 2. This one's number 3.
Okay. Got
Like
you.
I have a lingerie company that I have set up that I've been trying to launch, and it's been a year and a half. But I'm okay with that because it's not on my priority list. Like, it's just something I want to do, but I don't consider it a high priority. I have other things. Right?
Understood. So, I mean, do you go in the traditional route of making like an urgency importance matrix? Like, if you know what that is?
Yeah. I mean, I'll do that on like the weekly level for like the stuff I have a chance to get done. So like, as far as like micro planning, I basically every month I say, these are the 3 things I have to do this month. And then I do that same thing for the week. These are the 3 things I have to do this week. That's typically why my schedule is so light, because I am very focused on the 3 things I need to do. And then once they're done, I could do whatever. I could go ahead to the next week, or I could just relax.
Mm-hmm.
But so I plan the 3 things I need to do. And those 3 things are based on what are my priorities.
Got you.
Stuff that's like side stuff, I never put as a priority. It's always just, if I have extra time, I'll do it.
Got you. So like, what would you consider something that would be side stuff for like you personally?
Like, I have a bunch of hobbies, like salsa dancing, bachata dancing, photography. Like, I have a few photo shoots that I'm setting up, but I'm not gonna like rearrange priorities to do a photo shoot. It's like I have my priorities to get done, and then when I have the time, I'll set up a photo shoot.
Got you. And then I guess how many projects do you focus on per? I guess how many projects do you just try to focus on overall until you get it done?
I guess it depends on what you mean by project. Like, again, there's a hierarchy of stuff. So you have your career, you have your
Right.
job, and then you have your job now, and you have your job in the future, right? So you have the stuff you're working on today, and then you have the stuff you're working on to grow that career over the next 5, 10, 15 years.
Right.
And then typically you have a side hustle, and it's the same thing. You have a side hustle as it is now, and then you have whatever growth plan it is that you have to do to make it successful in 5 or 10 years. And then typically you have a third one. I think the way I look at it is there's an old saying, like, have 3 hobbies, right? One that makes you money, one that keeps you creative, and one that keeps you healthy.
Right.
So like, to me, it's like your baseline job, your career, you have your side hustle, and then typically you have your passion projects. Those are your 3 kind of like core businesses. And then you have your 3 hobbies. And those 6 things should be pretty well-rounded.
Yeah, that's crazy, because I think you were telling me about that. And I think now looking back at it, even you do that with your life. You just focus on 3 projects at a time. You were like, 1, you need to grow your career. Like, that's number 1. 2, make a side hustle based off of the skills that you were learning in your career, right? Meaning, like, in your example, you have like an operations background. So now you're doing like a whole consulting agency, and that's considered like your second project, your side hustle. And then 3 is basically like the hobbies, right? So like your photography, like photo shoots, philanthropy, charity events, like those types of things, right? Fall into the third project type of realm.
Yeah. Yeah. So my career, my executive career, I have my consulting practice, my side hustle, even though, and just because you call it side hustle doesn't mean anything, right? Like, I make more consulting than I do my executive career.
Right.
But I consider my side hustle. And then I have my passion project, which is the charity. And then obviously then you leverage those things into the hobbies, right? So now, because I have the charity and the consulting practice, a lot of the consulting I do is hospitality groups. So now I have all these, modeling groups and hospitality companies and event companies, which now gives me access to like the models and the parties. So now to do something like photography makes it a lot easier because I already have the connections. So you don't want to start from scratch for anything. You always want to leverage what you have, then just build something else on top of it.
Right. Yeah. So then, I mean, so for someone that's been in the scene because of that type of leveraging, you've been in the scene for a while. So how do you balance between being high energy and low energy?
I mean, I'm a pretty low energy guy. That's my nature. I don't really try and be a high energy person. I create high energy environments and let the
Mm.
people enjoy that for the people that are high energy. But yeah, I don't focus too much on that.
Do you ever feel like you kind of lose out to high energy people in like social situations when you're trying to get your point across, or whenever you have any goals to articulate to any type of people or anything like that?
No, I mean, there's pros and cons to anything. You want to learn how to communicate. You want to learn how to be a high energy if you have to in certain situations. But the truth is, most of the time, this stuff is high energy. It's not substance. That's why it's so high energy, right? The way I put it is like the worse the singer is on stage, the more backup dancers and stuff they need, right? If someone had a really good voice, that you could literally stand on stage and be a cappella. But the more worse their voice is, the more you need like the high energy stuff to keep you distracted. So to me, it's like if you're talking about the hospitality scene, the reason they have all that high energy stuff is to distract you from the bad food and the bad music and the bad parties. So the truth is, the better your food is, the better your environment is, the better your quality of service is, the less hype you need to be around it.
Yeah. So do you ever feel like it's with like when you're socializing, it would be more so like a tonality type of thing, or like body language, or any of those sort of like mainstream components? Or would you say it's like something deeper than that, that gives you the ability to be low energy but at the same time have such a strength behind your words?
No, no. So I mean, when someone's the best way I've ever heard her put is that there's when you talk about low energy and high energy, think of it like high energy is like swimming in the shallow end of a pool, and high and low energy is like swimming in the deep end of the pool. Now, when you swim in the deep end of the pool, you go deeper, right? Because it's the deep end of the pool, but it's more work, right? You got to breathe harder because you got to get to the bottom of the pool. It's less fun. There's more risk because you're now, let's say in the ocean, you're out further in the ocean.
Mm.
At the shallow end, it's easier, right? Because it's shallow. You can get out of the water quick. You can have more fun. You can run, jump around. So obviously, if you're in an environment like hospitality, where fun is the market, that playing in the shallow end of the pool is easier. But that's at a surface level. At some end of the day, if you want to stick around and have longevity, you have to have that deep end of the pool as well.
Mm. Do you think it's more of a marketing thing because young people are looking for, like, typically ages 18 to 24 are looking for those types of like theatrics and things along those lines, whereas as you get older in age, you see people going to like high elegant fancy restaurants and paying for quality instead of paying for all the theatrics and night clubbing and things along those nature?
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's philosophy of exchange, right? So what happens is a lot of this hospitality stuff is for experience, and then you kind of have two philosophies. You have one philosophy where it's like the experience is a way to escape life, and then you have the other philosophy where it's just experience is the way to experience life, right? So what happens is you have something like the crowds and stuff where it's like their lives suck. They're young kids, they have nothing going on, so they go to clubs to like get away from everything. It's their way of escaping. And then once you get to a certain level of life where you're more sophisticated, then you're not trying to escape anything you've built to life, and now you're just looking to add on to it. So now you want to enjoy the environment a little more. You want to go to the nicer restaurants. You want to go to the things that like make your life better instead of like trying to get away from things. Both are distractions. It's just a function of like, are you running away from something or are you using it to like build a better life?
Hmm.
So
Would you advise for younger people to kind of build a life first and then, leverage like perhaps somebody that's 25 or older would do, or would you just say that, those types of experiences are meant to go through even if they are theatrical?
No, I mean, I would say if it depends on what age we're talking about. I think you define how successful you're going to be between the ages of 20 to 30. 20 to 30, I think, are the ages where you can either really fuck up your life or you can really make your life take it to the next level. If you met anybody that's successful at 30 and 40, they'll probably tell you they wish they started sooner in their 20s. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have fun in your 20s and 30s, but that's kind of like, that's almost like the risk period where like the fun could get you in trouble. It could put you in jail. It could get you pregnant with kids. Like that's where the fun has like repercussion events that like could really mess you up. So yeah, you just gotta be careful. And it's when everybody else is partying. So if you get a head start in the race, you'll be that much more successful.
Right. So, I mean, I guess what's a quote that people live by that you never really understood?
I think we talked like was the YOLO thing. I
Mm,
understand the concept of it. You only live once, but I think people use it as an excuse to make bad decisions.
right.
And then also the concept of like things are. I think people think things are harder than they seem to be. So and they're not. If you want something, you just figure out what you want first, and then just go after it and figure out what you need to do and do it.
Right. So then how would you, I guess, advise like people that are younger to uh, start figuring out what they want to do in life?
It's like anything. I mean, if you had a teacher and you went to a class and in the first day class you went to the teacher and you were like, "What are we going to study?" And then she's like, "I don't know," and then you're like, "Great." And then if you went to the teacher and she's like, "We're going to study this," and she didn't have a syllabus or an outline, you'd be like, "What? I don't understand." Like you go to class, the first thing you want to know is what are we studying, and then what's the outline look like, and from that outline, what's the timeline look like in the syllabus. It's the same thing with life. Define what you want, and then put together an outline, a syllabus. This is what it looks like. These are the steps. First week, second week, third week, first year, second year, third year,
Mm.
and then you just go down the line and you execute.
So do you think that's you said first year, second year, third year. Do you think like that's too much long-term planning for people that are, I guess, younger? And what would you say like a good metric is to figure out like when to stick to something, and then like when do you realize that you could kind of give up on something if you really don't like it?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is like when someone enjoys something, you got to figure out who you are, right? That's a hard thing to do. It's harder to say like to do than it is to say. But when you enjoy doing something, you enjoy doing it when it's hard,
Mm.
right? You don't enjoy doing it when it's easy. That's a misconception. People think that it's like all about like discipline and whatever, and like, and then when it's hard, you have to like, no, if you enjoy doing something, the easier it is, the less you probably enjoy it. You want the challenge, right? If you enjoy boxing, you don't want to fight the guy that's sucks. You want to fight the guy that's good because it's more of a challenge. When you play a video game, if you're really into video games, you don't do the cheat codes to make the game easy to beat, right? You get like you sit there for hours trying to beat a level because it's so hard. So it's like when you enjoy something so much that even when it's hard, you're like, I'm going to double down and keep doing it because it's so much fun. That's typically when you're on the right path.
And then I guess what are some knowing what you know now, if you were to start over at 22 years old, how would you get to where you are today?
I probably do the same things. I would focus a lot more on like connecting with organizations and people and like literal learning things. Like I did a lot of learning on the streets. Um, Nowadays you have things like YouTube and stuff. So I would definitely like just spend my time learning everything and anything. Figure out what it is you want to do, and then figure out what the people in those industries respect, and like read those publications, watch those videos, learn that language, and just immerse yourself in that culture or what it is you want to be.
Mm.
Especially now that learning is so easy. Back in my days, like you could learn one thing at a time.
Yeah, for sure.
Now you could learn you could get like 5 degrees in a year by just going online on YouTube and studying all day.
Hmm. You don't even need any degrees in this day and age, depending on what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean degrees, like hypothetically, like enough knowledge to like.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, do you have any networking tips for people who want to get into hospitality or luxury real estate or anything that's very relationship oriented business? I guess I should say that anything really is a relationship oriented business, but do you have any networking tips for career, for your personal life, anything along those lines?
No, I would say I mean, what you said is the key, right? It's a relationship. So don't look at things as networking. You're not selling things. You're not. It's not your job to like get people to like you and connect with you and meet as many people as you want. You want to meet with people that you actually can build a relationship with. People you like, they like you,
Mm.
and then part of that inventory is saying what type of person do you have to be so that the people you want to meet with and know want to be your friend. Like what kind of skills do you have to have? What kind of person do you want to be so that people want to be around you and want to network with you and connect with you and then build those skills.
Mm. So do you, because then some people, like the most like ultimate, I guess you could say networkers or people that are in the social scene, they keep up with everybody. They ping messages, they do gift giving, things along those lines. Do you feel the need to do any of those types of things on like a consistent basis where you feel like you're keeping in touch with people just to, you know, have essentially like kind of like the mirror exposure effect in some sense?
Yeah, but the trick that people tell you that they don't tell you about that is that's you're not doing that as if you're doing that as a form of networking, you're probably not really good at networking. When you're doing that stuff, it's because the networking you're doing, the people that you're meeting, you actually like and are considering your friends, and then it's no longer networking. Like I do that to people and they do that to me because we're friends. It's not because they are selling me anything or I'm selling them. It's literally just like I have a process where every 6 months I go through my phone. And if I haven't talked to anybody in 6 months to a year, I either delete their number or I send them a message to see how they're doing. And if I'm keeping your number, it's because I like you.
Right.
So
That's very simple.